When I was a little kid, I was down at some little store, five and dime store, and I saw a group of bikers go by, and they're called the Road Rebels, and they had black bikes and they had black leather on and stuff, and I go, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. So I knew at a young age, 6, 7 years old or whatever it was, that I wanted to have motorcycles. So this bike I built in my shop in Vegas, and I did it in 9 days from start to finish.
Painting everything?
Everything. There no store-bought parts. That whole bike was handmade. The gas tank, the front end, the handlebars, the seat, everything you see there. And I called a couple of my old buddies from the old shop, and they came up and we built that bike in 9 days. This over here is Denver, over here on the door. And that was my best friend, and he used to build custom cars, chopping the tops and doing the lowrider thing, and that's when I met him when I was in high school. Well, I was born in El Paso, Texas, 1949, so I'm 75, almost 76. Moved to California when I was 5 years old, moved to San Bernardino, California, and went to school there, and that's where I met Denver when I was in high school. And we became good friends, and I was into building cars and then got into building bikes with Denver. I was building a Model A, and I was doing body work, and I wasn't really good at it, but I was trying. So I heard about him, and I went down there and just started talking to him and hanging out. So after I got out of high school every day, I'd go down to his shop and hang out, and then start hanging out on weekends, and before you know it, he was teaching me how to paint and do body work, and then we got into the motorcycles, and then it was on, and we're full time just customizing and building bikes, and it just took off from there. Denver was very iconic. He was a master at building motorcycles, and he could take and get a vision, and he could follow it through and build these amazing motorcycles. And back then we couldn't pick up a catalog and order parts. If you wanted a custom part or a bike, you had to build it yourself. Everything was done in-house, and he had a big group of people doing it, and I was part of that group. They called me Mondo. I used to do the frame molding on the bikes, like these two bikes here. Back then you sculptured the bike, and they were beautiful bikes. And they started coming to us, well, can you do this for me? You can do that for me? And that's when the body shop got closed and the motorcycle shop started. And once we started going in the motorcycle shop, we never looked back. It was always busy, always things going on, beautiful bikes coming out of there. We all had a position there. We all worked, and we were happy and had fun, drinking beer and raising hell. It was a lot of fun, and Denver was a guy that was bigger than life. It was immediately Denver's first bike. He took, to lengthen the front end, he took the Model A Ford, he took the wishbones that hold the front axle, and they had a nice tapered shape to them. So you'd take those and slide them over your front end on the original stock legs. You'd cut them to the length you want, weld them up, then you make a pair of front legs, and there you go. That would be a long Springer front end. In fact, I've got one here, and started building the tubular front ends, designed these front ends here, and the ones I'm still building are exactly like the ones we used to build back then. So yeah, it was our design, and still doing it. We had a lot of fun. We used to go on runs, they called them, or we'd get together on the weekends, a group of us, and take off riding, and wherever we ended up. But back then it was $5, $10 would get you through the weekend. Because just to buy the beer and buy some food, we'd ride up to the mountains, and there's some bars that we used to hang out in, or wherever we went. We'd go to the Colorado River, and that's when we got into boats. Is we'd ride our bikes there, and we go, those boats are pretty cool. So we started getting into the boats, and then it wasn't fast enough, and then so we got into the drag boat racing, which was we went pro racing, and so that was a lot of money, and it ended up costing Denver his life. So we sent our drag boats ahead. our cruise went ahead to Texas, and Denver and I flew down, and so I was sitting next to him in the airplane, and he goes, "I want you to make me a promise." And he goes, I said, "What's that?" And he goes, "If anything happens to me and I die, I want you to keep the shop going." And I said, "What? You're not going to die. Everything's going to be all right." He says, "No, promise me, look me in the eyes and promise me you'll keep the shop going." So he said, "Okay," and I never even thought about it again. I thought, okay. And then when the night he passed, and I went over to see his wife at the house, she goes, "You know what you got to do?" And I go, "Yeah." So it was, it was something that just had to be. There wasn't any ifs, ands, or buts about it. I knew what I had to do. It was devastating. He was my best friend, and going through that, and then going through the funeral, and then having to pick up, with all his employees and stuff, and sit behind his desk and fill those boots. He was an icon in the industry, and it was tough. I had to learn a lot, because I wasn't the front end builder, so I had to learn how to build the front ends. All the fabrication on these things, building handlebars, building this, building that, everything I had to learn. So it was baptism by fire. I've kind of taken all his task and put it into one person, and Gerald. I couldn't do it without him. So there's not a day that goes by. I got pictures of them all around the shop, and people come by, or people call and say, "Hey, I knew Denver, and he built this bike for me," and I always enjoy that because then we can reminisce a little bit. So he's missed every day. He's the reason I'm doing this is because his legacy, and I wanted to keep his name alive, and people know, don't they, Gerald? People know Denver Choppers all over the world, and we didn't let it fade away. The rest is history. Here I am, kept my promise that I made to him, and 30-something years later, I'm still building the Denver Chopper bikes, and hopefully after I'm gone, Gerald does the same. So we're good. We're in good hands. I don't work a day in my life. I'm doing what I do and love what I'm blessed to be able to do what I do. The freedom, all your problems that you have, everything that's going on, all that stuff goes out the window because all you're concerned about is just riding a cool motorcycle and going where you want, riding in the mountains. You can run off by yourself and be gone for a day, or throw a sleeping bag on the back and be gone for a week. You have that freedom, and that's very few things in life will give you that freedom that a motorcycle will. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't do anything else but this. I'm living the dream. I'm a lucky guy.